and in action. What I'm not going to do today is go through chapter and verse of what Medicare is, how it runs, and the 10,000 details that are in the Medicare system. What I am going to do is I'm going to talk about why 51% of new enrollees are choosing a Medicare program that may not be in their best interests. The format that I'm going to use here, which will become apparent, is somewhere between a tell-all memoir, Mommy Dearest, and a KQED personal commentary, This Is My Exciting Moment. So in accord with what we know about Medicare, let me begin with the fear that everyone has, you would all have it if you were closer to 65, which is, where is Medicare going? Will it be there when I get there? Well, there's a long and a short answer to that question, but it's both the same. It's political. So let me interject a little not very ha-ha joke into this to focus you on what I'm talking about. And so how do you know if a politician is lying? His lips are moving. His lips are moving. If we take that and we take a look at the big, beautiful bill, what we're told by the politicians with the moving lips, there will be no impact on Medicare for anybody. You're all safe. But when the Medicare wonks sift through the 900-page opus, what they find is that the language is rather vague and all exclusively unintelligible. So we're not sure what's going on with that. But wait a minute, our politicians, would they lie to us? Well, maybe it's a matter of the right hand not knowing what the left hand is doing, or maybe it does know what it's doing. So the basis of Medicare is one that was founded in a social service network. The intent is to take people who are retired and give them freedom from medical bills and medical bankruptcy. This is an old idea in most of the Western world, but 1966 it raised its head in the US. What we found is that there was a long distance between that goal and the reality. What we in effect saw was that special interests and self-serving politicians found ways to minimize that. So what should coverage be? 100% medical coverage? Dental, vision, hearing, long-term care? Wouldn't that be a very solid social network? What we got was less than that. Over the ensuing 40 years, what we've seen is our friends, special interests, and self-serving politicians have managed to increase the benefits, but they haven't managed to increase the totality of the concept of a social safety net. So what we've seen over the ensuing period is Medicare, a not-for-profit entity with about a 3% overhead, has been supplemented by insurance companies with overheads ranging from 10 to 30%. We haven't seen a 10 to 30% increase in benefits to the recipients. So what's the rationale for this big move of the private sector into the public sector? Well, the story goes that there's too much fraud, waste, and abuse in any public program that has a lot of money. Also, private business knows how to manage things. They know how to get it done. So the reality to that is, if we look in the healthcare sector, what do we see? When we see consolidation, privatization, and monopoly, we also see increasing prices and decreasing levels of care. What we find is that in any bureaucracy, private or public, where there's a lot of money sloshing around i.e. Boeing, i.e. DOJ, there's always an attracted component of criminality. In the healthcare sector, what we see going on is we have criminals in the guise of individuals, mom and pops, professionals, hospitals, and insurance companies. The only difference between that whole set is that DOJ is the one who's supposed to control this, and they do what they can to catch criminality in this field. The major differences are they can fine a criminal, they can put him in jail, they can withdraw his license to ever deal with the federal government, except for the case of an insurance company. An insurance company will get a slap on the wrist, they will get a fine for something less than the culpability that's accredited to them. They will be given permission to disavow any criminal intent and simply comply with an order because it's easier to deal with. And they will never go to jail. So if we see this as the way things work, and we see a regimen now of lower and lower controls, lower and lower regulations, where do we think that this picture is going to go? It's pretty obvious. So, given this insightful perspective about how Medicare works, where it's heading, and what it may be all about in the future, what are you going to do about it when you get to the gates and you have to make decisions? So there's three ways that people usually approach this. The one of them is to check their mail, sort through all the pretty pamphlets from the insurance company, and make an uneducated guess about which one of those panaceas they'd like to adopt. The second way is that people will research the hell out of Medicare. They will learn everything there is to learn about Medicare, and they will feel comfortable in that knowledge. The problem, however, is what they've learned is what Medicare is supposed to do, how it's supposed to work. What they haven't got a clue about necessarily is how it actually works. Now, the reality is everybody will figure out how it actually works at some point in time. Medicare, however, says that you need to make a decision right now, and that decision is going to follow you possibly for the rest of your medical care. So when you learn how things actually work, there won't be anything you can do about it. So the third alternative is you hire a guide. You hire somebody who knows what you don't know, who's going and seeing where you're headed, and can give you the information and the knowledge to make a decision based on reality that would be good for today and tomorrow. So what does it cost to hire a guide? It doesn't cost you anything. Medicare knows that this is a complex set of decisions to be made in a very short period of time, and the possibility for errors is pretty high. So what they've done is they've built in the compensation to every product that you have to include in your Medicare package, because Medicare only covers 80% of your hospital and skilled nursing doctors, tests, and procedures. The other 20% is left open, and it's only available through insurance companies. So Medicare said, okay, insurance companies, we're going to build into the pricing of your products an amount of money to hire somebody to disentangle this web, this Gordian knot of decision making. Whether you do or don't choose to use it, that money's built in. It's not going to lower your premium by doing it yourself. It's going to drop right to the bottom line of the insurance company. So I think the unfortunate reality that we face here in making this decision is it's complex, it's confusing, it's not opaque in any way, shape, or form. You'll figure it out when you get there, and that may not be in enough time to do anything about making it work for you. Medicare can work for you, or it can be a passive impediment to your retirement. It's up to you, and that information is not readily available when you have to make the decisions. So I think anybody in good conscience can find something wrong with part of it or all of it, maybe none of it. The reality is you have, I think, the privilege of participating in a system which can be very good, and you have, unfortunately, the obligation to figure it out. Because everything that you're going to access that's readily available is going to tell you how it's supposed to work. Unfortunately, you will be partaking benefits when you find out how it actually works. And you don't really want to be caught on the wrong side of that dilemma. What we basically see going on here is that the more insurance you have in your program, the less care you're going to get from your program. So Medicare is basically complex, confusing. It's fairly disruptive to the progression towards your retirement goals. There's a million questions that you could ask about every aspect of Medicare. There's 1,000 pages that you can go to and review. But the problem is the answers to all those questions aren't necessarily going to help you find the best program for you. So rather than go through a series of questions and answers about the way things are supposed to work, I'm done with my presentation and want to suggest if anybody wants to have a wide open chat with me, this is the time to do it, and I'd be happy to talk about the bigger issues. Thanks for your attention.